Let's talk about these 6 ways that you can communicate more confidently in your professional writing. Grab your cup of tea and let's dive into it. Tip number 1 is to use an active versus a passive voice. This is what the research shows comes across as more confident because it is more direct and more in control. In an active voice, the subject is performing the action. For example, this is saying, I streamline the process to enhance efficiency, as opposed to saying the process was streamlined to enhance efficiency. If you're not comfortable with the difference between an active versus a passive voice, or you feel like you need to improve in your use of an active voice, one of my favorite ways to do this is to use the Hemingway app. It is a free website and it's a really simple one where you just pop your text into the homepage of the website and it will give you a mix of highlighted information on some key elements, and one of those will relate to your active versus your passive voice and where areas of your communication are potentially coming across as weak and have the potential to be strengthened. You can edit within the page to see when you have reached a point where your communication is coming across in a stronger and more confident way. Tip number 2 is to be concise. Concise writing conveys more confidence and calmness, and it has the added benefit of taking some of the mental burden off of your reader. You are allowing them to process more simplified information. To make your writing more concise, just some of the ways that you can do this is removing some of the overqualifiers in your sentences. For example, instead of saying I strongly recommend, just say I recommend, and this comes across as more confident anyway. Remove the excessive words from any sentences. So have a look at your sentence and cut out anything that does not need to be there while still being able to convey the main purpose of the message. When you are also reviewing your communication, remove anything that is just unnecessary. For example, you can remove excessive apologizing. Instead of saying, I'm sorry to bother you, for example, you can just get to the point of what it is that you want to communicate. Instead of saying, I hope you don't mind, again, just get straight to the point of what it is that you are trying to say. And when you're reviewing your communication and your sentences, also remember to remove any filler words when you are addressing those excessive words. So this could be potentially things like just, which you might find is used a lot in email communications, for example. And if you feel like you are being potentially a little bit too assertive in your communication, a little bit too direct, then consider reviewing your communication and removing as many references to yourself as you can. So references to I. For example, you might replace saying something like, I think the solution is, to something like, here is a solution to address XYZ. Tip number 3 is to use action-orientated verbs. Action-orientated verbs communicate more confidence in your writing. So whether you are adding them to your resume or your presentation deck, try as much as possible to add these to the start of your sentences. And when you're picking action-orientated verbs, try and pick the strongest options available. So instead of saying things like I suggest, say I recommend to portray more confidence in what the point is that you are making. Instead of using words like seems, try and include words like demonstrates or indicates as an alternative to this. My tip number 4 is to organize your ideas. Confidence in your communication when it comes to your writing isn't just about the words that you put down on the page or in your resume or in your reports or in your social media posts. It's also about the way that you format these to organize your ideas. A well-organized written piece of communication conveys clarity of thought and it helps your reader move through the argument that you are trying to make. Just some of the ways that you can organize your ideas to express more confidence in your communication is by using things like headings and subheadings, by breaking down your communication into key dot points, adding relevant links to any information that you might be referencing, and also you might review your sentence length and the pacing of your communication. For example, you might have a dynamic communication that includes a mix of slightly longer and shorter sentences. The shorter sentences in particular will come across as more direct and more confident, but the longer sentences can then help to create a more dynamic piece of communication. Tip number 5 is to show evidence-based authority. There is no use being all confidence and no credibility. So make sure that you are backing up any statements that you make. What are the facts, the stats, the research, the points of data that you can use to back up any claims that you are making in your written communication? Marketers love the saying that people buy emotionally first and then rationalize with logic. When you are able to back up any of your claims with logic, then you are able to instill confidence in your reader about your capabilities and your credibility. And my tip number 6 is to write smartly. Don't try to sound smart. Having confidence in your written communication isn't about trying to sound smart. It can actually be somewhat the opposite. It's about communicating in a smart way so that your audience can process your communication more effectively. The Bezos Blueprint by Carmen Gallo is a book that really highlighted for me the importance of readability scores and making sure that your communication can be understood. This was something that Jeff Bezos, during his leadership of Amazon, took really seriously when it came to staff. He instructed his staff to write to the level of 8th grade or lower. And this is because the research shows from the United States that 80% of people can understand communication at an 8th grade level or lower. So no matter what the position is of the person that you are communicating with, communicate at the level of 8th grade or lower in order to come across as confident and to be effectively understood in what it is that you are saying. And keep in mind, as Einstein said, the definition of genius is taking the complex and making it simple. For more on how you can communicate more confidently in your conversations, then check out my previous episode on this topic. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.